reprieve, a breath of fresh air for Jason, Vanessa, and their young daughter, Lily. The pristine beaches, the golden sunsets, and the laughter of families surrounding them painted a perfect tableau of contentment. Yet, beneath this idyllic surface, Jason carried an unseen weight. For years he had absorbed Vanessa's jabs, her casual dismissals, and her relentless criticism. As a devoted father and husband, Jason had sacrificed his own dreams to ensure his family's stability. From long hours at work to sleepless nights comforting a teething Lily, his actions spoke of love and commitment. But to Vanessa, his efforts were rarely enough. Their vacation began, as most did, with Vanessa setting the pace. Every itinerary, every restaurant choice, and even Lily's activities were dictated by her. Jason complied, as he always had, quietly pushing back the thoughts of his diminishing self-worth. This trip, however, would be different. Jason had resolved to find peace for himself and his daughter, no matter what it took. One evening, after a long day at the beach, the family sat on the deck of their rented bungalow. Lily was curled up in Jason's lap, her sun-kissed cheeks glowing as she recounted her adventures collecting seashells. Jason's heart swelled as he watched her excitement, his world momentarily anchored by her innocent joy. "Lily, why don't you get ready for bed, sweetheart?" Vanessa's tone cut through the warmth of the moment. Jason kissed Lily's forehead and sent her off, his eyes lingering on the little girl who had become his beacon of light. As soon as Lily was out of earshot, Vanessa's voice turned sharp. "Jason, did you even look at the dinner bill tonight? You ordered the most expensive thing on the menu again. I swear you have no concept of money." Jason felt the familiar sting of her words, but chose silence over conflict. He gazed out at the ocean, its rhythmic waves offering a small measure of calm. But Vanessa wasn't done. "And don't think I didn't notice the way you bumbled around with Lily's sunscreen today. It's like you can't do anything right unless I hold your hand," she added with a sneer. Jason met her eyes, a flicker of resolve sparking within him. "I'm doing my best, Vanessa. For you, for Lily. But it's never enough for you, is it?" Vanessa rolled her eyes, an exaggerated gesture that conveyed her disdain. "Oh, please, spare me the pity party. You'll never be enough, Jason. That's just who you are." The words hit him harder than he expected. Vanessa's harshness wasn't new, but the finality in her tone was. For years, Jason had believed there was a version of himself that could meet her impossible standards, a man who could make her proud. But now, it was clear. Vanessa's expectations were a moving target, designed to keep him feeling inadequate. As Vanessa turned and walked back into the house, Jason stayed behind, staring at the horizon. The sunset seemed endless, a kaleidoscope of fiery hues painting the sky. It mirrored the emotions roiling within him: anger, sadness, but most of all, clarity. By the time Vanessa returned, Jason had already made his decision, and for once, her voice, her criticisms, and her dismissive tone faded into the background. He would endure the rest of the vacation, for Lily's sake, but once they returned home, Jason would reclaim his life and his dignity. Unbeknownst to Vanessa, this was not the beginning of an argument. It was the beginning of the end. The days following Vanessa's cruel remark passed uneventfully, at least on the surface. The family continued their vacation routine, building sandcastles on the beach, visiting the boardwalk, and taking photos that would later project the illusion of a perfect family. Jason smiled in every picture and responded to Vanessa's barbs with his usual quiet patience. Yet, beneath the calm facade, a transformation was underway. Jason had always prided himself on being methodical, and now he turned that trait toward a new goal, securing a future for himself and Lily, free from Vanessa's constant derision. He didn't lash out or confront her during the trip. Instead, he played the long game, each moment a step toward his plan. Each evening, after Vanessa fell asleep, Jason retreated to the small balcony of their bungalow, phone in hand. There, under the cover of the ocean breeze, he meticulously researched divorce laws in their state, custody arrangements, and the rights he had as a father. He wasn't driven by malice, but by a desire to ensure Lily's well-being and stability. Vanessa had underestimated him. Over the years, she had mistaken his calm demeanor for complacency, and his silence for weakness. What she didn't realize was that Jason had been quietly observing her, cataloging the very behavior she assumed he would always tolerate. Her dismissive treatment of him wasn't just a pattern, it was a habit that bled into her role as a mother. Jason thought back to the moments Vanessa's words and actions had inadvertently hurt Lily. Times when she'd dismissed their daughter's stories, scolded her for small mistakes, or criticized her in public for things that required guidance, not ridicule. Jason resolved that he would not let those moments define Lily's childhood. One night, as the waves crashed softly against the shore, Jason typed a text to his lawyer friend Mark. Mark responded quickly, offering his support and the promise to meet as soon as Jason returned home. The message felt like the first brick laid in a new foundation, one built on respect and love. The turning point. The last full day of the vacation brought an unexpected opportunity for Jason. At the resort's Family Activity Center, Lily entered a sandcastle competition. While Jason cheered her on enthusiastically, Vanessa sat nearby, scrolling through her phone, only occasionally glancing up. "Daddy, look!" Lily exclaimed, beaming with pride as she finished her castle. She'd fashioned tiny seashells into turrets and dug a moat that shimmered with water. Jason knelt beside her, showering her with praise. "It's incredible, sweetheart. You're so creative." Vanessa barely looked up. "Jason, don't encourage her too much. She'll just be upset when someone else wins." Jason felt the familiar pang of irritation but didn't respond. Instead, he pulled Lily closer and whispered, "It's perfect just the way it is. You've already won to me." Lily grinned and hugged him tightly. That small act of defiance, choosing to lift his daughter rather than listen to Vanessa's negativity, galvanized Jason. Later that evening, while Vanessa complained about the resort's service during dinner, Jason received an email from Mark confirming the custody strategy they had discussed. It was straightforward. Jason's record as a dedicated father, coupled with Vanessa's documented lack of involvement, gave him a strong case. Still, Jason knew the journey wouldn't be easy. Vanessa's pride would make her fight fiercely for control, not because she wanted custody, but because she hated losing. But Jason was prepared to face her wrath. For Lily's sake, he would stand firm. The final night. That night, as Vanessa packed their things for the trip home, she made a comment that lingered with Jason. "You'll probably screw this up somehow, Jason," she said, motioning to their suitcases. "Just try not to lose anything." Jason simply smiled. "Don't worry, I've got everything under control." The calmness in his voice was uncharacteristic enough that Vanessa glanced at him, a flicker of confusion crossing her face. But she quickly brushed it off and went back to packing. Jason knew she wouldn't understand the significance of his words until it was too late. By this time tomorrow, everything would change. The flight home would not only mark the end of their vacation, but the beginning of a new chapter for him and Lily. As Jason tucked Lily into bed that night, he kissed her forehead and whispered, "I promise, everything's going to be okay." For the first time in years, Jason felt a profound sense of peace. He wasn't afraid of what lay ahead. He was ready. The airport was teeming with activity as Jason, Vanessa, and Lily made their way to the terminal for their flight home. The familiar chaos of travel, bustling crowds, the screech of luggage wheels and announcements over the intercom, offered Jason a strange sense of calm. He clutched a manila envelope tightly in his carry-on bag, knowing it contained the documents that would irrevocably change their lives. Vanessa, in her usual fashion, was directing every step of the way. "Jason, make sure you check the bags properly this time," she snapped as they reached the counter. Jason nodded, biting back a comment. It wasn't worth starting a fight here, not when he knew what was coming. Instead, he focused on Lily, who clutched his hand and skipped beside him. Her wide-eyed wonder at the airplanes outside the window reminded Jason why he was doing this. Once they cleared security, Vanessa immediately gravitated toward the duty-free shop, leaving Jason and Lily to find seats near their gate. Lily giggled as Jason playfully lifted her onto his lap. "Daddy, are we going to fly through the clouds again?" she asked, her excitement palpable. "We sure are, sweetheart," Jason said with a smile. "And when we get home, we're going to have so much fun together." Lily's innocent joy warmed Jason's heart, but his resolve hardened. He would not let her be a casualty of Vanessa's toxicity. A calm before the storm. As they waited for Vanessa to return, Jason replayed the steps in his mind. Over the past few days, he had consulted with his lawyer, Mark, to finalize the necessary paperwork. He had gathered everything: proof of Vanessa's neglect toward Lily, her frequent absences, and her own words belittling Jason's parenting. He knew the case for custody would be strong, but more importantly, he knew he could provide Lily with the love and stability she deserved. When Vanessa finally rejoined them, she was juggling shopping bags and her phone. "Honestly, Jason, could you at least try to keep an eye on her while I'm gone?" she muttered. Jason gave a neutral smile. "Lily's been fine. She's right here with me." Vanessa didn't respond, too engrossed in scrolling through her phone. Jason didn't let her indifference bother him. He was past caring about her approval. The moment of truth. Boarding the plane was uneventful. Jason ensured Lily was settled in the window seat, her favorite spot, while Vanessa sat in the aisle seat, already preoccupied with a magazine. Jason took the middle seat, the envelope in his lap like a shield. As the plane taxied to the runway, Jason glanced out the window. The horizon stretched endlessly, a mix of orange and blue hues blending into one another. It reminded him of the future he envisioned, a life free of constant criticism and full of new beginnings. Once the plane reached cruising altitude, Jason leaned back in his seat. Vanessa was engrossed in her reading, seemingly oblivious to his quiet tension. Jason took a deep breath, steadying himself for what he knew was a pivotal moment. "Vanessa," he said, his voice calm but firm. She didn't look up immediately, her attention still on the glossy pages in her hands. "What?" she said flatly. Jason reached into his bag and pulled out the manila envelope. He placed it on the tray table between them, his fingers lingering for a moment before sliding it toward her. Vanessa's brow furrowed. "What's this?" "Divorce papers," Jason said quietly, his voice devoid of emotion. For a moment, Vanessa simply stared at the envelope, as if it were a foreign object she couldn't comprehend. When she finally opened it, her expression shifted from confusion to disbelief. "You've got to be kidding me," she hissed, keeping her voice low to avoid drawing attention. Jason shook his head. "I'm not. It's all there. The terms are fair, but I'm filing for sole custody Lily." Vanessa's laugh was sharp, almost incredulous. "You think you're gonna take Lily from me? You can't be serious." "I am," Jason said firmly. "I've documented everything, every time you've neglected her, every time you've chosen your own convenience over her needs. This isn't about revenge, Vanessa. It's about giving Lily the stable, loving environment she deserves." Vanessa's face turned crimson as she scanned the documents. The passengers in the rows nearby began to take notice of the escalating tension, their curious gazes flickering toward the unfolding drama. "You think you're some kind of saint?" Vanessa spat, her voice rising. "You've always been a mediocre husband and a barely competent father." Jason's jaw tightened, but he didn't rise to the bait. Instead, he kept his focus steady. "This isn't about us anymore, Vanessa. It's about Lily. She deserves better." Vanessa's hands trembled as she shoved the papers back into the envelope. "You'll regret this, Jason." "Mark my words." Jason met her glare with unwavering calm. "Maybe. But I'll never regret standing up for my daughter." A new chapter. The rest of the flight passed in tense silence. Vanessa alternated between glaring at Jason and furiously typing on her phone, no doubt contacting her lawyer. Jason, however, stayed calm, his attention focused on Lily. When the plane landed, Jason took Lily's hand and walked toward the exit without looking back. Vanessa trailed behind them, muttering angrily under her breath. As they stepped into the airport terminal, Jason felt a strange sense of relief. He knew the hard part was still ahead, but he also knew he had taken the first step toward a better life. "Daddy," Lily said, tugging on his hand, "are we going home now?" Jason crouched to her level, his smile soft but confident. "Yes, sweetheart, we're going home." And for the first time in years, Jason truly felt like he was heading somewhere worth calling home. Jason and Lily stepped into the cool air of the airport terminal, their steps steady and purposeful. Vanessa trailed behind, seething but eerily silent. As Jason navigated them toward the baggage claim, his thoughts were as clear as they had ever been. This was the first day of his new life, a life built on intention, not compromise, strength, not submission. He glanced at Lily, who clutched her stuffed rabbit in one hand and his hand in the other. She deserved stability, love, and joy. He was determined to give her all three, even if it meant navigating uncharted territory. Vanessa eventually broke the silence as they waited for their bags. "You really think this is over?" she hissed under her breath, her voice trembling with fury. Jason turned to her, calm and composed. "No, Vanessa, this isn't over. But it's a beginning. One that Lily and I both deserve." Vanessa didn't respond. She simply crossed her arms and turned away, her expression dark with unresolved anger. The first steps. The drive home was uneventful, save for Lily's cheerful chatter about the vacation. She seemed blissfully unaware of the tension that lingered like a storm cloud between her parents. Jason focused on her words, giving her the attention Vanessa rarely had. "Daddy, can we make pancakes tomorrow, like the ones we had at the resort?" "Of course, sweetheart," Jason replied, his smile genuine. "We'll make them together. You can help with the mixing." When they finally reached their house, Jason set Lily up with her favorite coloring book and began unpacking their suitcases. Vanessa disappeared upstairs, likely to scheme or sulk, but Jason paid her no mind. His focus was on making Lily feel safe and secure. That evening, after Lily was tucked into bed, Jason retreated to his home office. It was time to lay the groundwork for the next phase of his plan. He opened his laptop and began reviewing the materials his lawyer Mark had sent him. Custody laws, court procedures, and financial arrangements filled the screen. Each piece of information felt like a stepping stone across a river of uncertainty. Jason knew Vanessa wouldn't go quietly. Her pride and need for control would drive her to fight, not because she truly wanted custody of Lily, but because losing would feel like a personal failure. He was prepared for her resistance, though. Years of enduring her cutting remarks and unreasonable demands had honed his resilience. Challenges arise. The next morning, as Jason and Lily enjoyed their pancake breakfast, Vanessa emerged from the bedroom, her phone glued to her ear. She was speaking loudly, making no effort to hide the nature of her conversation. "I don't care what it costs, Sandra. I want full custody. He thinks he can take my daughter from me? He's got another thing coming." Jason met Lily's curious gaze with a reassuring smile. "Eat up, sweetheart. We've got a fun day ahead." Once Lily finished her breakfast, Jason took her to the park, leaving Vanessa to stew at home. Watching Lily swing and laugh with other children filled him with a sense of purpose. This was the life he wanted for her, a life filled with happiness, free from the shadow of her mother's discontent. Later that day, Jason received a call from Mark. "Vanessa's already contacted an attorney," Mark said, his tone professional yet concerned. "She's going to push for full custody, claiming you're unfit as a parent." Jason expected as much. What's her angle? "She's likely to argue that your work hours make you unavailable to care for Lily. She might even try to twist your calm demeanor into a lack of emotional investment." Jason nodded. "Let's focus on gathering evidence. I have years of receipts, videos, emails, and even journal entries showing that I've been Lily's primary caregiver, and I'll keep documenting everything moving forward." "Good," Mark replied. "Stay consistent, Jason. Judges look for stability and a strong bond with the child. You've got both in your favor." A new routine. Over the following weeks, Jason threw himself into creating a stable environment for Lily. He adjusted his work schedule to spend more time with her, enrolling her in art classes and accompanying her to school events. He also started therapy, both for himself and Lily, to help them process the changes in their lives. Vanessa, meanwhile, became more erratic. Her attempts to portray herself as a doting mother often felt forced and insincere. She started posting photos of herself and Lily on social media, crafting a narrative that didn't align with reality. Jason didn't engage with her theatrics. Instead, he focused on his own narrative, one of consistency, love, and responsibility. One evening, as Jason helped Lily with her bedtime story, she looked up at him with wide, curious eyes. "Daddy, are you and Mommy mad at each other?" Jason paused, choosing his words carefully. "Sometimes grown-ups have disagreements, sweetheart, but I promise, no matter what happens, I'll always be here for you." Satisfied with his answer, Lily snuggled into her blanket and drifted off to sleep. Jason sat by her bed for a while, watching her peaceful expression. The turning tide. Weeks turned into months, and the court date loomed closer. Jason's case grew stronger with every passing day, thanks to Mark's guidance and Jason's meticulous documentation. Vanessa, on the other hand, seemed to falter under the weight of her own contradictions. The final tipping point came when Vanessa missed a scheduled visitation with Lily, citing a last-minute business trip that turned out to be a weekend getaway with friends. Jason quietly added the incident to his growing list of evidence. As he prepared for the upcoming court battle, Jason felt a sense of resolve. He wasn't just fighting for custody, he was fighting for Lily's future, for her right to grow up in a home filled with love and respect. And as he tucked Lily into bed that night, he whispered the same promise he had made on the flight home. "We're going to be okay, sweetheart, I promise." The day of the custody hearing dawned clear and crisp, the air heavy with anticipation. Jason woke early, his resolve steeled for the battle ahead. He dressed carefully, choosing a navy suit that projected both confidence and respectability. As he adjusted his tie in the mirror, he caught Lily's picture on the dresser, a candid shot of her laughing in the park. It bolstered his determination. Mark had assured him the case was strong. Over the past months, they had gathered irrefutable evidence of Vanessa's inconsistent parenting and Jason's unwavering dedication to Lily's well-being. They had videos, photographs, school records, and even statements from teachers and neighbors who had witnessed Jason's role as a loving, present father. Jason nodded. "I've been ready for months." The courtroom was smaller than Jason had imagined. Its walls were lined with pale wood, and the judge's bench stood elevated at the front of the room. Jason took his seat beside Mark, his heart pounding steadily in his chest. Across the aisle, Vanessa sat with her lawyer, exuding confidence. She was dressed impeccably, her expression a mix of defiance and disdain. As the proceedings began, Vanessa's lawyer was the first to speak. She painted a picture of Jason as a workaholic, claiming his long hours at the office made him unavailable to provide Lily with the emotional support she needed. She framed Vanessa as the nurturing parent, conveniently omitting her frequent absences and moments of neglect. Jason listened silently, his expression calm. He knew the truth, and he trusted the evidence would speak louder than Vanessa's carefully crafted story. When it was Mark's turn, he methodically dismantled the opposing narrative. He presented school records showing Jason's consistent involvement in Lily's education, parent-teacher meetings, school plays, and field trips. He played videos of Jason helping Lily with her art projects and reading bedtime stories. Perhaps most impactful was a statement from Lily's teacher, submitted in writing, which highlighted Jason's active role in Lily's development and noted that Vanessa's involvement had been minimal at best. Vanessa's lawyer tried to counter, bringing up Jason's work schedule again, but Mark was prepared. He presented evidence that Jason had adjusted his hours to spend more time with Lily and pointed out Vanessa's missed visitation and her reliance on Jason to manage Lily's routines. Finally, Jason was called to the stand. He spoke plainly, his voice steady as he described his love for Lily and his commitment to providing her with a stable, loving environment. "Lily is my world," he said. "Everything I do is for her. She deserves to grow up knowing she's valued and supported, not caught in the middle of conflict." Vanessa's turn on the stand was less compelling. She grew defensive under questioning, and when confronted with evidence of her social media posts and missed visitations, she faltered. The cracks in her carefully maintained image began to show. A just decision. After hours of testimony and arguments, the judge retired to deliberate. The wait was agonizing, but Jason remained composed, his thoughts focused on Lily. When the judge finally returned, her verdict was clear and decisive. Jason was awarded primary custody of Lily, with Vanessa granted limited visitation rights. The judge emphasized the importance of stability and pointed to Jason's documented involvement in Lily's life as the deciding factor. Vanessa's expression was a mix of shock and fury, but Jason felt only relief. For the first time in years, he felt a weight lift from his shoulders. A fresh start? The weeks following the hearing were a whirlwind of adjustments. Jason and Lily settled into their new routine, their days filled with laughter and quiet moments of connection. Jason decorated Lily's room with her favorite colors and hung fairy lights around her bed. They planted a small garden in the backyard, and every evening they watered the flowers together, watching them grow. Vanessa's presence became a distant echo, her visits sporadic and cordial, but lacking the emotional connection that Jason and Lily shared. Jason didn't dwell on her absence. He focused on the bond he was building with his daughter. One afternoon, as they played in the park, Lily turned to Jason and said, "Daddy, I like it when it's just us. It feels happy." Jason knelt beside her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Me too, sweetheart. Me too." Looking ahead, life wasn't without challenges, but Jason faced each one with the same quiet determination that had carried him through the hardest times. He continued therapy with Lily, ensuring she had the tools to process her emotions and thrive. He also found time to nurture his own passions, picking up photography as a hobby and documenting their adventures together. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Lily leaned against Jason's shoulder. "You're the best, Daddy," she said softly. Jason kissed the top of her head, his heart full. "No, Lily, you're the best. You make everything worth it." The journey had been hard, but as the sun dipped below the horizon, Jason knew they had found their light. Together, they were building a life filled with love, hope, and endless possibility.